Albert Breer from SI.com, a Monday morning quarterback with us here on Cap and J Hood at 8:02 Mountain Time. Albert, how are you?
Right, yeah. So I feel like Mountain Time is the lost time zone, and that put me in a little bit of a weird spot this morning where I may or may not have double scheduled myself without knowing it.
Oh,
because here's the problem, right? And I'm sitting on the set of Dan Patrick's show, and my phone's buzzing in my pocket, and I'm like, holy shit, did I fuck up? Did I mess up the time zone?
Watch it now.
And yeah, did I mess up the time zones? And so then I'm doing in my head, I'm like, okay, so I'm in Mountain Time, and normally I'd be doing this in Eastern Time, and they're in Central Time, and so I just my excuse is that I am in the forgotten time zone, and that was why it's true though, isn't it? No one ever thinks of Mountain Time, right?
Correct.
There's I think Denver's the only major city that's all in Mountain Time, right?
Yes.
And then Phoenix is half in, half out, right? So that's a good excuse, I think.
It is, especially Phoenix, because I think it changes, right, Cap?
Right.
It does.
Half the year. Yeah, right. Isn't it half the year is Pacific, right?
Yes.
Right. Half the year it's 2 hours behind us, and half the year it's only an hour behind us.
Yes.
Because they never change the clocks, right?
Correct.
That's what it is.
Right.
Right.
We fall back and spring forward.
Spring
Right.
forward. Yeah.
Correct.
See, in the Albert Breer administration, though, we won't have any of this. We won't have any. We won't have any time changes. Everything will be the same for 12 months, right? Under your administration,
everybody will be on my time. How about that?
That's it.
That works. You know what's great about Tom Brady? Not just what we've seen from him as a football player, but just how relaxed he is to just be able to speak his mind on that Let's Go podcast and everywhere he goes. What do you think of Tom Brady? Not just in retirement, but just the way he's open and I guess honest from his standpoint.
I mean, I think it's going to be interesting to see whether or not he winds up doing the television thing. Because obviously he's got the contract. I know some people aren't convinced that he'll actually go through with it and go into the booth and all of that. So I think it's good that we're starting to see the side of Tom Brady come out that I think a lot of people have seen behind closed doors and away from television cameras and all that. The question is whether or not he can carry that onto the air, and whether or not he might be compromised in different ways, and whether or not the idea of doing it on television is worth it to him, or would he rather go into team ownership, be in a front office, so. I think that the answers to those questions, honestly, Hoodie, I don't think he has them yet. I think one of the big reasons why he, walked away from football, why it was so hard for him to walk away from football, he wasn't looking for a fairy tale ending or, to get back at people. It was because he's addicted to competition, and because, he doesn't know how he's going to fill that void in his life. And so, to me, the bigger question is going to be whether or not television does that for him, and if he's on the fence about whether it does or not, whether or not it's worth him going and speaking his mind in a way that'll make him entertaining in television that might compromise some of the relationships that he has.
Albert, let's talk about what some of the chatter is around Super Bowl week. The number one pick belongs to Chicago, but they're also 3-14. So what is the discussion out there? Could the Bears actually stay at 1 and take Jalen Carter, Will Anderson, whoever, or is it almost a fait accompli? They're trading down.
I think they want to trade down. I think there's moving pieces to these things always. So how far are you going down? Are you going down to say 4? Are you going down? Or are you going down to say 15? That's a big difference in what sort of player you're going to get. Do you want volume of picks? Do you want quality of picks? There are all those questions that sort of remain unanswered. I can tell you, they're going to explore it, and they're going to discuss it, and they're going to do all their homework on it. And I think they're really going to consider it. I think they want to trade down. But wanting to trade down and getting something that you're truly happy with and okay with giving up on the idea of drafting a Jalen Carter or Will Anderson for is different than that, And so, you look at the different situations where this happened in the past, and we've seen teams do the short trade down The Chargers did it in 2004, the Eli Manning trade. If you guys remember that, they went from 1 to 4. We've seen the teams drop further back. Like Tennessee did that in 2016, went all the way down to 15 with the Rams coming up for Jared Goff. So that to me is like the bigger question: how far are they willing to go down, and is it volume of picks or quality of picks that they're looking for?
Albert Breer with us from SI.com, a Monday morning quarterback on the Kaplan J. Hood Morning Show on ESPN 1000 and streaming on the ESPN Chicago app. With Brian Flores being hired as Vikings defensive coordinator, I guess as far as the lawsuit, the Vikings are not part of that. I mean, Flores gets the job, but what about the other side of it, him suing the league?
I mean, I don't think that that's going to do anything to stop the lawsuit. Now if he had become a head coach, maybe that would be different. But I don't think it's going to affect the lawsuit. I think the lawsuit is going to go forward. My guess, Hoodie, would, and look, Steve Wilkes is a part of this too. And obviously, there's the layer to his case now of having turned the Panthers around and going 6-6 after the 1-4 start there. And not getting the shot to be the full-time head coach, that going to Frank Reich. So there's that layer to it. So I suspect that the lawsuit's going to move forward unaffected by Flores becoming the Vikings defensive coordinator. Whereas maybe if, he came out of all of this as the Cardinals head coach, we'd be talking about something different.
And he's a good hire too. They need some help.
Yeah,
no question.
Yeah, I mean, look, the Vikings, I think Kevin O'Connell showed a lot of promise in his first year, but I mean, there's no question that defense was a mess by the end of the year. And so I think they're bringing in the right guy for the job. Flores, for the issues that he did have as a head coach in Miami, he's always been an excellent defensive coach.
Okay, so Aaron Rodgers having fun at the golf tournament last week, the Pro-Am that he was part of the winning team. Hey, Aaron, you got any news for us? Yeah, I'm not going to San Fran. And then talked about Vegas and my decision and where I'm going to be and all of this. So what do you think happens to Aaron Rodgers? And I'm going to ask you to jump into the mind of a Bear fan because we asked this question. Would you rather get Rodgers out of the division, or would you rather build your team the right way and beat his ass in a Green Bay uniform?
I mean, I would probably rather build a team the right way and get by him. He hasn't won a championship in 12 years, And I mean, the Vikings showed last year that if you build the right sort of team, you can get backed up by the Packers right now. Like, they're not impenetrable like the way they might have seemed in that division, and over Matt LaFleur's first 3 years there. So, I would say you want to go through him. Now, as for what happens with him, we're going to have a pretty significant quarterback domino falling here in the next 2 weeks. In fact, the deadline is a week from tomorrow for the Raiders to make a decision on Derek Carr. Obviously, the trade hasn't happened yet. Dave Ziegler, their general manager, talked with teams about trading Carr, Senior Bowl last week. But one way or the other, 8 days from now, we're going to get an answer on whether or not he's traded or cut. And so he's either going to be on another team or a free agent. So that'll be the first domino to fall. And I think Rodgers is the next domino. And which way that falls, we'll see. But I'd expect the Jets to be in it. I'd expect the Raiders to be in it. I think there'll be at least a few other teams involved. But I do sort of think that it's like the Brady market, a couple years ago where people were surprised that the Brady market was somewhat limited. But the fact of the matter is you had to have a lot of things in place to pursue Brady. You had to have flexibility to add his contract. You had to have flexibility to add the people that he wanted to add to the roster. And you had to have a roster that was ready to win in the here and now and a willingness to go all in over a 2 or 3 year period. And that really can narrow the list of teams that'd be interested. So, I think, the card domino falls, and then we're probably talking about a lot about Rodgers thereafter.
Lastly, Albert, when does Roger Goodell speak?
Wednesday.
Okay, that should be interesting. Interesting to hear from him, especially as you wrote about the idea of having some of these conference championship games in neutral sites. That'll be, is that something? I think that's something to get his thoughts on, because me and Cap talked about it. If you put it in a different site, Cap, you still have all the 100 level, the people in the good seats. Those are corporate seats. The people up top, that will be the real fans. You'll have that sound like the Super Bowl, where it's like you only get the sound from up top, and all the corporate people, they couldn't care less who wins.
I was just at the Kansas City Bengals game, and it was an amazing environment.
Don't take away the home field. I'm wondering about that, Albert.
I honestly think like those, like I think the conference title game is probably the best environment the NFL has to offer. Like, you know, if we're talking about like just, I mean, we can compare stadium to stadium, but if you're just talking about like from an event standpoint, like the environment for a game, I think the conference title games are probably the best environment the NFL has. And the Super Bowl is different, you know, but I think the Super Bowl is sort of unique to itself too, in that there's this like grand feel to the Super Bowl, and I don't think you can recreate that. So I think if you had them in like neutral sites, I understand from a revenue standpoint what you could do, like the fact that you can sell suites to sponsors, the fact that you don't have to, you know, you're not beholden to a team season ticket holders the same way you are in their home stadium, all that different stuff, the way that they can generate revenue. I just don't think it's worth it. Like, I don't think it's worth it to tear down what you have and the environment that you have in those stadiums for conference championship games, which I think is outstanding. And, you know, the way I look at it, it's like, so like, this is the best example like I can give you. Like, I would have gone to the college football. Now, I would have gone to the national championship game if Ohio State had made it. Mm-hmm. I really didn't give much thought to going to the semifinal. And the reason why was because, like, I'm not going to take two trips in the middle of a busy work time. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, I just can't. And I think there are a lot of people that are like that. You know what I mean? That would look at it and be like, well, like, I don't really want to take two trips. Like, the people with the financial wherewithal to do it, I don't want to take two trips, so I'll just go to the Super Bowl, you know? So I think it's a bad idea all the way around. But, you know, I also have learned over 18 seasons covering the NFL to never, ever, 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 ever underestimate the greed of the owners.
Albert, as always, we appreciate it. Thanks for coming on with us from the Super Bowl.
All right, thanks, guys. And I apologize for my time zone struggles.
It's no problem, man.
All good, man.
8:14 Mountain, by the way. It's 8:14.
Yeah, and I hope you guys didn't have to drop me there earlier. I almost slipped up. I caught myself, but I almost slipped up.
We got you covered.
We got you.
Yeah.